Hey guys, this is DFD, aka Dark Frozen Deaths, back with another Kamihime project video. This one's going to be different because it's going to discuss something else along with the recent thing that I found out with the accessory class compensation. But to get started, yes, they did compensate us, if you don't know already, 3,000 magic jewels, 2 elixirs, and 12 of each dragon bone. I think that's enough materials to get three runs rank 7. But honestly, as good as a 3,000 magic jewels is, I feel like the rest of it's not really that great of a compensation. Could be worse, but definitely could be better. Either way, it is something. There's even some people that manage to get some good SSR out of their free pools and whatnot, so it's just how it is. But anyways, to start off with, here's the biggest issue. They also did some sort of punishment for players that actually abuse the bug. Now, for those of you that don't know, when Accessory Quest Rank 7 officially came out, there was a bug where you can actually infinitely run the Wind and the Light quest by just hitting rebattle. So, that said, you had extra runs of Wind and pretty much a full day to do a Light. Now, I chose to do 3 runs of Light, and I didn't even get full 3 runs of Wind, and I was untouched. But I've had the feeling that they were going to try to penalize it because, let's face it, when you really sit back and think about it, you're limited to 3 runs a day, so at most you're getting 6 SSR accessories towards one element, and then the Sunday quest can be any random amount, so that's between 6 to 12 of each element. Being able to run that non-stop for a full day, let's assume you can do it in like 5 minutes. Or even on the slower end, 10 minutes. That would still be half, so we'll figure that out later. So 5 minutes. That's 12 runs an hour, meaning 24 accessories an hour. That in turn would mean 528 accessories in a full day if you did that non-stop. And that's just the SSR. I'm not even talking about the ones that drop at SR or R. So that's tons of materials for that one too. And they'll probably just flood your inbox. Now, even assuming 10 minutes per accessory quest rank 7, that's still half of that, which is 274 SSR. There's no way somebody wouldn't have penalized that anyways, because that's between 3/4 of a year to maybe a year and a half worth of progress, maybe even more. So that said, it was expected that would get penalized. So here's what they did. They went into players' inventory that did abuse the bug, removed all the Wind and Light accessories that they got past the 3rd run. They also, to the best of my knowledge, removed accessories that had any of those used towards it. So if you got more accessories than you should have, then if you use it on another accessory, that got removed too. That's all fine and good, but it still ended up being handled wrong. There are some players that wrongfully had some of their stuff removed, and other players just didn't get touched at all. Like, for the general perspective, it seems if you did anywhere between 4 to 10 runs, you're roughly untouched. You may not notice your stuff gone, who knows, but generally that's what happened. But for other players, there's 2 of them I knew on my Discord. I'm not going to say their names. One of them had all of their fire and water accessories removed, I believe. The fire being the biggest hit because of the fact that this guy was a fire main. And he was a whale too, so it hurts even more because that was one serious power drop that he's having got. It affected him so much that he actually quit. Now, another person that didn't quit, they had even worse. All of their accessories except for a light were removed. And I don't even know how much of their light accessories got removed either. But that's the thing. There's mixed reception about this, and in a lot of different cases. The general consensus is the fact that that was handled absolutely poorly. Nothing against them removing any of the excess wind and light. Nothing against them removing any accessories that was enhanced by that. But they went in and touched stuff that had nothing to do with the bug. Now, in my viewpoint, this is excessive. Because those players should have been punished. You are indeed abusing something that was not intended. On the other hand, they punished them too much. Or in some cases, just didn't punish them at all, and that's unfair. So, my viewpoint, it's more of a compound thing on screw-ups. Nutaku originally screwed up with the bug, then players screwed up even further by abusing said bug, and then Nutaku screwed up even further yet again by overly punishing players when they shouldn't have. So it's more in a case of screw up after screw up after screw up. And this is just my perspective on the thing, but the whole thing about the fake compensation might have made it worse. That's just my opinion, though. I can't prove that, so just take that as my viewpoint on it, but that's not a fact. What is indeed a fact, though, is that the compensation they gave does not feel like it was enough, because quite frankly, we got entries to get accessory quest rank 7. We didn't get replacements for the runs we missed. And then on top of that, some players got punished too harshly. Others should have got punished but did not. It was just poorly handled, period, point blank. And that's my main thing about this. It's, as a player that's sitting on the sidelines watching this crap because I actually did my runs responsibly and didn't abuse a bug, I'm looking at this mess and I'm one of the ones that probably got the worst of it, considering the fact that the compensation wasn't all that great. I'm now down some runs on roughly 4 elements. You could consider 5 given the Sunday quest that was missed. And then it seems like Nutaku just simply more or less half-assed it. So that said, it's just, what the hell? Oh, and sorry about the beeping in the background. That's a smoke alarm again. But, that's the whole thing. It was simply just poorly handled. And then some things got escalated where they shouldn't have. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. The players that abused a bug are still at fault. The players that caused that fake compensation thing are still at fault. But the devs are also at fault. Because this originated with them. And then they handled it poorly after the fact. And then I also know for a fact now that it's been confirmed only Nutaku went through this. DMM on the English side did not go through this, and I know for sure the Japanese side did not go through it either. Because there definitely would have been news. So, that said, it pretty much just hit one part of the player base and made the game objectively worse for them. So, then on top of that, there's also the added fact of, like I said, there's people that abuse the bug with the accessories because it is indeed tempting. I'm not going to lie, I was tempted myself, but I knew it would be a bad idea, so I didn't do it. But with the incoming power creep and how much you have to grind anyways, being able to do a little bit more than you're allowed actually is a little bit tempting because power creep is also an issue. For instance, believe it or not, there's players that actually call my light grade weak because of the simple fact that it's not to their power level, which may be 70,000 or 75,000. There's other players that also call it weak because, granted, it took me 2 years to get to that point. But you also have to keep in mind that the game was a lot slower to get that power beforehand. Like, in its early stages, it was incredibly hard to get 45,000. Now, players can get like maybe 70,000 or so. And then it's still based on how much somebody can play the game and whatnot. I honestly can't play the game that much. I know somebody that can only play it once a week. So, just because somebody can grind for like 2 hours a day, maybe, and still get to my point within, say, half a year, that's all fine and good, but people have to remember that I'm not them. I'm just a guy that says, okay, I found out this was powerful, you may want to have it. More or less, it's shooting the messenger. And then it still doesn't change the fact that despite all this, there's two major things. I will admit that my grids could have been better, but they still do a lot of the content in the game, and that's the most important thing about it. Now, put this in perspective that my next best grid is fire, and then after that my grids are so-so in my own opinion, with the weakest ones easily being water and thunder, but I've been working on them lately. That's the thing. Despite all of this, I have not once gone through a single tower where I did not get 10,000 medals total. I may not have gotten it from mission clears, but I've gotten it from ranking bonus. And that being denied that sense of achievement because somebody else says I'm weak, that's not right. Because that's pretty much, that's like somebody in, that's like saying somebody that's got 1 point higher than you saying you suck. It more or less feels like that. And that's the thing. Power creep is indeed going to some players' heads. I can't deny that. I'm not against trying to get stronger either. I definitely want some of the later stuff that comes down the line, which will be incredibly strong. Even though I do believe some of it's a little bit too much. Like, there's going to be a Dark Adoan that will... And these are the ones that are quote-unquote the new Kaisers. But they're based off of Chinese mythology. But there's going to be a Dark one where if you max it out, it will give every single character on your team in the front lines, not the sub-slots, 100 burst gauge. But it's going to be at the cost of 2,500 HP. Now, assume you wailed for this. That's 5 free full bursts just by filling up your sub-slots with her at that point. That's insane. Anybody can tell that's a little too much. Add on the fact that you've already had a 4th tier soul that can, if done right, make you do triple full bursts back to back. That means you can do, if you do it right, at least 8 full bursts. If you deny the boost on your grid, because some players are actually strong enough for it, you can fill up every single sub slot with her. You can fill up every single main slot and friend slot with her. And make it 10 full bursts back to back. It's going to siphon a lot of your HP, sure. But that's a drop in a bucket, because those players are already dishing out 30 million damage or whatnot. Being able to do 10 of those back to back should be able to let them solo even the Phantom Element Guardian in a matter of 15 turns or less. Now do people see what I'm saying about this? It's beyond overpowered. Now granted, it is unfeasible to actually get that much. Some might have that argument, but it still doesn't change the fact that it's in the game. Somebody's going to try and do it. That's only going to make the power creep a little bit worse, because as a free player, there's a good chance you're not even getting her. Now, let's add on the fact that currently right now, there's so much stuff in the game that can actually push you towards even the soft caps right now. There are players hitting all the soft caps right now. And then let's also add on, like, even my grid has a huge power boost just from the Guardian, and then I'm coming to find out that if my calculations are correct, I won't even need 100% Idoan because it's only a slight bit more power increase, but I lose so much other stuff. Which means with just a little bit more grid power, I might be able to surpass 100% Idoan already. And keep in mind, I have no Phantom Weapon. I have no 4th accessory slots. And I'm still doing so much. That's incredibly strong. So you really have to think about it. There's so many ways to actually abuse this game and get stronger, but you can't deny that the power creep is getting a little bit out of hand. When somebody can go into the skill measurement cone and do 300 million damage, yeah, That's insane. And this is before the one I don't want to mention came out too, so keep that in mind. Otherwise, it'd probably be higher. Simply put, this game is getting, if you ask me, somewhat out of hand. Does it make it unplayable? No. But it's something that players should be wary about. Mainly because of the simple fact that power creep is undeniable in every single game. You have to have some sort of incentive to get players to do something. You have to have it so you can get progressively stronger as harder and more difficult content comes out. That's understandable. It's just devs didn't really control it as much as they should have, so now it's getting a little bit skewed, and it's only going to get worse out down the line. Add on the fact that some people are not too happy about having to grind so much anyways, just for the 4th tier souls, but they do tend to forget this one thing. You don't have to grind your behind off for it. You can just slowly let it come up. The only real thing you're losing out on is maybe rankings, but that's it. And even then, the rankings aren't everything, because despite the fact that you do get rank bonuses in order to get some stuff, like the medals in order to get the SSR bricks, mainly it's generally easy to actually get ranks. I mean, if I can still rank enough to get a brick with a grid that only has 60% assault, then yeah, I think people are overthinking it. And I'm not kidding on that. Watch my previous tower videos. Look at how much damage I was doing before the light tower. I mean, before the tower where I used my light teams. The first 4 towers, I wasn't doing so hot on damage on grids in general, basically. I had to keep going off element near the end in order to actually pick up the slack. And yet, somehow, some way, I still ranked pretty nicely. So, this isn't me trying to brag or actually show off, but this is proving a point here. The fact that I'm still doing all this stuff means that I think people really are overthinking some things. I mean, even Tower should teach you this one too, but there are SR and R girls that actually are pretty strong. I have a light girl on my R rarity stuff. She's actually the best healer in the game if you use her right. Yes, even better than Soul, because unlike anybody else, she has an uncapped heal, and it will give everybody 50% HP. Yeah, there's a drawback of it having an extremely long cooldown, and plus when she uses a skill, it still takes 3 turns for the heal to go off. But if you use her correctly, she will heal more than even 4th tier souls. That's insane. So, that's the whole thing. Some people are overlooking what you may or may not have. That's also why I stress so much. Use what you have. Granted, try to get better stuff later down the line. It will always help. But use what you have. And then the other thing that also kind of irritates me a little bit too is the fact that there are some players that will objectively, they're right on this one too, but they will say that things are getting a little bit boring or monotonous or whatnot. I can agree in some cases on that one, because it's usually the same old events. We will get a new one pretty soon, don't worry. And then there's going to be more epic quests later down the line and another Coon on the way. So it will change things up a little bit. But it's more or less due to the quote-unquote ease of content when, if you really think about it, you're the one that's gotten that strong in the first place, so if you really want to challenge, just use a different team or just make yourself weaker. Because you've already hit the point where it's not a challenge. I mean, I've even hit points where I can solo Guardians. If you see my last video, I'm able to do almost 7.2 million damage in ability damage. Meaning that if I was just a slight bit stronger, I wouldn't even have to attack for any of the event raid bosses that's not Ragnarok. Yeah, that's pretty insane. But at the same time, it's more, I understand how much I put into my light grid. And I also understand how much I put into the other grids too. Granted, they definitely could be better. Even my light grid could still be better. But it's still more or less between what I wanted to do with it, what I was aiming for, and what I already had at the time. And even then, I don't always have the time to really play the games and whatnot. I mean, I'm taking time out of my day in order to make this video. That's one thing. Another thing is the fact that, again, I still have a life. And it's the case with other people too. Not everybody can sit back on the game all day. Not everybody can access the game every day. I mean, there's even been cases where somebody might actually kick you out of a union because you've been logged off for 2 days or more. That's excessive as hell. I think even a week is excessive as hell. That's why I generally put a 1 month window for anybody that's on my friend list or union list, because if you're not coming back in a month, there's a good chance you're not coming back at all. Unless you told me you were on a hiatus, you're probably just going to be booted at that point. So that's my viewpoint. Others say 2 weeks is fine, maybe 3 weeks, but that's the general thing. It's like some players are so hardcore that a week or even a day is too much for them, which is, it's a legit what the hell. But that's just it. And then it's also a common misconception that you have to have a certain grid, a certain amount of power. No, you don't. No, you don't. Get that out of your head right now. When you're at the point when you can solo all of the ultimate catastrophes, you're pretty much set for the rest of the game. Not even kidding on that one. You are set for the rest of the game. Because you could take that one element, provided that they're not weak against something, and pretty much clear any content. You may have to work at it a little bit with some stuff like accessory quest rank 7, but unless it's like later floors in the tower, because that's still based on your Kamihime for the most part, you can pretty much clear any content. I'm kid you not. Because you don't have to solo the raids. But being able to solo an ultimate raid means you have a very good chance of fighting in the Ragnarok and the Guardian ones. You have a very good chance of clearing the Go missions. You have a very good chance of doing some of the event missions. Like, I'm not kidding. When you get to that point, that grid is set. You can go work on another one for all you want. But that grid is set. And again, this is just my viewpoints on it. Maybe it's me ranting and whatnot, but again, it's still, you have to really sit back and think about things. And that's been my main issue with a few things that's been going on lately. Because I've noticed power creep's getting a little bit out of hand already. Plus, I'm finding out we're getting a lot more deals than DMM didn't have. So that accelerates the power creep. We wouldn't have even gotten so many SSR break deals if we was DMM. They get once a year. We got like 3 or 4 in 1 year. And then on top of that, there's how some things were handled poorly and whatnot too. I mean, most of it is the dev's fault. I can't deny that. But if you've abused the bug and want to complain about it, your only valid complaint is that they sat and took something they shouldn't have. The only things they really should have took was the wind, the light accessories, and anything you use them on, provided it's stuff that you got after 3 runs on either element. If I did 4 runs on wind, that 4th run should be taken away. If I did 5 runs on light, the last 2 should be taken away. That's what I see as fair. But some players got an even worse treatment than that. That's where it gets unfair. So it is a little bit of perspective. And quite frankly, it does suck to have a lot of effort taken away. But at the same time, I hate to say it, but it's kind of broad on yourself if you're in that situation. Because if you simply did not abuse a bug, that wouldn't have happened. I can't deny that. It's more of a case of, I'm sorry what happened, but you really did screw up on your part. But at the same time, still can't deny that the devs screwed up, because quite frankly, the compensation, despite the fact that 3,000 magic jewels is pretty generous, still kind of underwhelming. And then they handled things completely wrong anyways. That's what started this whole mess. But anyways, I've been going on about this long enough. I've pretty much got my point across. And again, that's just how I see things. I'm trying to be as honest as possible here because, let's face it, if you really sit back and think about things rationally, that's kind of what's going on. So that's just it. But anyways, more of this is going to come soon. Not this subject, but this game. Unless more of this subject pops up. I can't deny that too because I'm still finding some things out. But more of this game still going to come soon because the way I see it too, regardless of how bad it gets, I put too much into this game in order to really quit, both time and money wise. But that's all I got for this. And I may also start doing other games and whatnot too again. I'm not sure. But at the same time, I do feel like I need to record stuff from other different things too if I can. So I may or may not be getting back into some old games or even looking at some new ones. There's a couple that you can pre-register for right now. I'm going to give them a shot. If I like them enough, I may start doing some videos on them. But there's no guarantee I'll continue those videos. I mean, look at Atogi. But anyways, that's all for this, guys. And more of this will definitely come soon. But anyways, take care.